Just checking to see that the panelists can see the screen.
I can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To
the flag
of the United States of America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Megan, can you do roll call, please?
Richard Beltz, Rita Spinelli,
Here.
Nathan Fuller,
Present.
Patricia Denicola,
Present.
Tina Champ, Jonathan Cleaver.
present.
Okay, we'll move into the reason we're here tonight, which is the 2021 budget discussion. I just want to start with saying, in accordance with code, we did post the proposed final budget, and thereafter we made changes. The changes were discussed at every finance committee meeting that we had in June. All of the changes discussed during June have been incorporated into the final budget that will be presented at tonight's special board meeting at 7 p.m. JJ, can you go to the one-page document? Okay, so as we discussed on last Thursday's meeting, we had a budget deficit as of June 22nd of $1.78 million. With a tax increase up to the index of 1.76 mil increase, that would bring in additional net revenue of $580,376. That is net of any discounts and net of the district's estimated collectible percentage. The budget deficit after that tax increase was just under 1.2 million. The Act 93 administrators voluntarily agreed to take a pay freeze. That saved the district $59,093. With that savings, we were able to reinstate middle school sports. We eliminated 2 Act 93 administrative positions. That would be a savings of $154,189. There were some eliminations due to the COVID-19 concerns and the district's inability to safely meet the requirements. There were some extracurricular programs. That was a savings of $84,614, and elimination of mandated transportation was a savings of $992,810. After all the resignations, retirements, everything that was left unfilled, it left us with budgeted revenues of $41,147,268 against budgeted expenditures of $41,056,215. A budget surplus of just under $100,000, $91,053. And again, I'd like to repeat on the transportation side of things, 2 things. We are still in talks with our transportation contractor to determine if there's some level of regular transportation we can provide that would meet the guidelines. We are actively in those discussions. We are also actively looking at any potential revenue sources that we could use to support a transportation program of some sort. So while the transportation is in tonight's budget as eliminated the regular transportation, that does not mean we have not stopped looking, nor will we stop looking for ways to bring transportation back in accordance with the COVID-19 concerns aptly addressed. So I want to make that known that even though we pass a budget, it doesn't mean the work stopped. It means our work continues. We've worked tirelessly on this budget, and we continue to work day by day for any savings, whether it be $100, whether it be $5,000, to try and put as much back into the classroom and education that we can. I know transportation is also a concern for many families, in that if we're not transporting, how are we going to get our children to school? Or how are we going to make sure that older siblings are home for younger siblings? And the district has a risk that families may be looking to the cyber charters across the state as a viable option. While they are a viable option for education within Pennsylvania, the Lehighton Area School District has their own virtual academy. The Lehighton Area School District has a very committed professional staff member that manages our program, our virtual academy. They have been, contributing so much time during this pandemic and the planning for next school year to make sure that families understand we do have our own cyber option. We have LAVA, our virtual academy. With that education, a student could go through that entire program. When they graduate, they don't graduate with a cyber diploma. They graduate with a diploma from the Lehighton Area School District. Lehighton Area School District has in the past and will continue to provide a tremendous education for our community. I think it's important that people realize that we do have our own virtual academy that can supply, I'm not going to say the same services as the cyber schools across the state. I'm going to say even more services than what a student would get at the cyber charters across the state. So I want the public, the community to know that while this budget has not been easy and there has been some unfortunate things that needed to be either curtailed or cut for many reasons, in large part directed by COVID-19, but also directed by our financial situation. The work has not stopped and it will not stop. We will continue to put forth the effort to bring back what we can to add to our programs. As we look to the 2021 school year and planning for that, we are looking at technological options for planning of potential live streaming of courses as a possibility. And the superintendent can speak more to this, but we're investigating what we would need to be able to do that in the event school reopens in the fall and then the governor shuts down schools again, what would be the most viable, the best option for continuing education of our students. There are many colleges across the state that have live streamed their courses for many years. We're looking at what would we need technologically wise to be able to do that within our own district. So while I know there's been a lot of concerns about things that have been eliminated within this budget, I just want everybody to know, the community to know, the board members to know that the administration, the professional staff, everybody within the district is working hard to make sure that we can continue to meet the community's needs and continue to look for ideas to get us back to point A, to get us back to having transportation that aligns with the guidelines, to having extracurricular programs that align with the guidelines. It's not that we would pass this budget tonight and the work is done. The work continues. The work continues every day in addressing the challenges ahead of us. JJ, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I just think piggyback on that with our reopening plans and guidelines. I know we had discussions about this in the past and how we are going to address the needs and how we're required to address the needs of our kids who are not going to be physically coming back into our buildings. So that'll all be information that'll be out shortly. We're also looking right now, as of today, we're talking about setting up demo type lessons so we could present them to the parents so they could actually see what those lessons will look like when their student is at home. So that is one of the things that we're working on right now to address that concern. And that way you could actually see, the parents will actually be able to see a demo of a class being presented as if, was taking place during the 2021 school year.
Another note on this budget, this as was reviewed on Thursday's Finance Committee meeting last week, there is a millage increase, a real estate tax millage increase in this budget of 1.76 mils. The average impact across our municipalities would be no more on a weekly basis than $1.79. In Mahoning Township, based upon the average assessment of $52,978, it would be an annual increase of $93.24. That breaks down to $1.79 a week. While we know, nobody wants tax increases, unfortunately, the lack of proper state funding and the lack of, continued appropriate funding of programs at the state level, our only revenue generation source, unfortunately, is the local taxpayer. We have not done many tax increases over the past number of years, from 2014-15 through 2018-19. It was a flat rate, no increases. With the 1920 budget, there was a 1 mil increase. Again, this year we are going to the community and asking for indicating that we will have another tax millage increase. We know this presents challenges. However, this budget is a balanced budget, the first balanced budget that I think is an attainable balanced budget for the district, and we need the community support to get back the financial strength of the Lehighton Area School District.
Excuse me, this is Tina Chan. Megan, could you please mark me as present? I signed in at 6:08. I was having some trouble connecting.
Yeah, I did notice that, so I have it
Okay,
marked.
good, thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Patty, this is Nathan. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for all your hard work on this. It's obvious that it's been a long road working up to this. I'm pleased with where this landed on Thursday, given where we started and obviously where we're finishing now. I look forward to seeing things continue to evolve as the school year goes on and as things continue to evolve. But I don't have any further questions right now. I feel like where we've landed is a good place, and as you said, the first viable balanced budget we've seen in a long time. I think that's a good thing.
Thank you, Nathan.
Ms. Danicola, this is Rita. I also would like to thank you for your hard work. I know what it's been like. I have been in touch with school board members all over the state, and many people are having the same problem. Everybody's scrambling, looking for what they can do. Most people feel next year is going to be even worse. But for us, this is our worst year. And I just thank you for all your work, and I hope and pray that we can get through this year and the revenues will stay stable and the expenditures will at least stay stable, hopefully reduce, and we can work something out with transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, this budget will be on the 7 o'clock agenda for vote by the board in accordance with school code. A budget must be adopted by June 30th.
We do have several individuals from the attendees that would like to speak. Ms. Beers? Ms. Beers? Can you hear?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry. I had one question. Did this committee look into what would be the effects of normalizing the benefits that the employees currently get because they're, kind of unusual. They're not industry standard. And I know we're renegotiating the contract, so this might be a good time to kind of reset things back to, something that would be more typical in alignment with the industry.
I will jump into to answer that. The district benefits, while they don't align with the private sector, they do align with education across the state. They do align with other school districts across the state. That being said, we understand the cost of those benefits, and through any negotiating opportunities, benefits, just like salaries, are always a negotiation topic. The budget was built upon what actually exists today because that is what we were obligated to. In the event we are able to, going forward, come the next month or the month thereafter, we're able to negotiate a separate benefit plan. Obviously, that would be brought to the board for approval, and numbers as to how that would impact the budget would be shared at that point. So benefits, yes, are different than what they look like in a private sector, but they align with benefits across the public sector.
Brian?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. I appreciate the time here. Just had a couple questions here. So on the last finance committee meeting, there was conversation about the fund budget, which from what I could see on the slides last time, 5 years ago, had a $15 million surplus. What happened to that 15 million over the last 5 years?
So over the last 5 years, the district's revenues did not support its expenditures. And the offset, if you don't have enough revenue, is you have to use your fund balance, pretty much dipping into your savings, so to speak. That savings, as I'll call it, has been exhausted over those number of years to keep revenue in line with expenditures. We were spending more than what was coming in on a revenue basis. So to make up that difference, it comes from fund balance. Based upon the 1920 budget, we are estimated to be at a negative fund balance. That is disallowable under school code. That's why we have worked so hard to come up with a balanced budget. This budget does have a minor surplus in it, but we understand that any more students moving into charter school or any increase in special education costs could very quickly eat up that surplus. It's a very lean budget, and we understand that. But these are the steps needed to take to, again, start building at least a positive fund balance in accordance with school code.
So what happened 5 years ago with the revenue generation? I mean, it seems like that's a pretty good budget to build up, and then all of a sudden it just drops where you're pulling about $3 million a year from that.
While I was not here during those time periods, I've only been here a little over a year at the district.
Anybody on the board can answer.
From what I can tell, the expenditure numbers that were shared were not always in line with the actual spending, meaning special education costs were rising, other kinds of costs were rising, and the budgeted expenditures did not align as closely with the actual expenditures, as well as some of the budgeted revenues were higher than what was actually coming in. So the combination of those two things is kind of, from what I can tell from the outside, that led the district to that position.
And how many members of the current board were here while that happened?
JJ, can you answer that?
Yeah, they would have to speak to that. I don't want to speak out of turn for them to make sure, because I know there for a while we had several resignations during that time. So, I'm not aware exactly if they were officially on the board or not, because there was about a 2 or 3 year gap in there where board members were, on and off, either from resignations or, being elected.
Okay. So let me ask another question here. What would have been the plan for transportation if not for COVID? And I mean, I know we keep talking about the reason we don't have transportation is we can't meet the recommendations and the guidelines for busing students. However, if it were not for COVID, I would still see us with a $992,000 shortfall. How are we planning on making that up if not for COVID?
We would have been looking at other options. There, might have been other position eliminations. And we're still looking every day for more savings. I think there would have been, a change in the transportation program, meaning how many stops and how full buses are and such to cut costs there and save costs there. But I think it would have been a multitude of things you would have seen happen.
Okay. I mean, I hope you guys see, and I understand you probably do, but what a big problem this is when you go from 4 independently located throughout the rural area elementary schools to one gigantic elementary school. And I'm not saying anybody could have foreseen this, but just another casualty there. Now, you had said that state law requires the budget to pass by June 30th. What happens if the budget doesn't pass tonight?
If the budget doesn't pass tonight, the district will have no authority to spend. That means employees would not get paid, vendors wouldn't get paid. That would be, while it's a difficult budget, it would be unfortunate if we were in that position, because that I think detracts from the discussions we're currently having and we need to continue to have, which is reopening the schools, establishing, the educational resources that we're going to need, and planning for the worst, planning for another, governor-directed quarantine. We want to make sure that we continue to provide the robust education that our professional staff provides in the classroom, make sure that we have the ability to continue to provide that in the event another quarantine happens. So we're hoping for the best, but trying to prepare for the worst.
Okay, that's all the questions I have this evening. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Bradley? Mr. Bradley?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I recently received a copy of the budget, and it's being printed in relationship to the other one, so I apologize for the background noise. I would like to address four things, actually. First of all, the business manager made a comment in reference to Pennsylvania code compliance. And rather than hear it from her, I'd like to hear it from either Nathan or Rita, who have an oath and obligation to uphold the law. And I was wondering if Nathan or Rita got a opinion from the solicitor, and I'm specifically regarding section 687 that says the proposed budget on the uniform form required by the Department of Education shall be printed or otherwise made available for public inspection to all persons and shall be made available for duplication for any person on request at least 20 days prior to the date set for the adoption. And prior to that, in section 87, it also discusses these changes that you're talking about. And it says if there's more than a $2,000 change, it appears to be a 10 days public notice. So this was sent to the board of directors at close to 5:30 tonight. So Nathan and Rita, the first question I have for you is, did you hear from the solicitor? Is this district in compliance? And did you have this thing earlier than the rest of us? First question. Rita, answer please. Nathan, answer please.
No, I did not ask this specific question to the solicitor in advance of hearing you rattle it off 2 minutes ago. I did not.
Well, wait, we had several emails throughout the day seeking this exact question from our president to the treasurer, which is yourself, and to the vice president, which is Rita, also on the finance committee. So let's not pretend that this is the first time you heard this question. This is Pennsylvania school code. You have an obligation to read it. You have an obligation when you swore your oath to know what it was. You have an obligation to understand and read English, I believe, right? And it's plain English. It says 20 days. So obviously you didn't do your job. Let's go to the next one, cuts. I'm looking at a 3% increase from last year on section 1100 of this budget, which is regular programs of education. So you have an increase in consumption of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yet when I move across the screen, and I'll put this up so other people watching it later can see it. So you have a several percent increase to those expenses, but when it comes to student services, you dropped it by 22%, right? You dropped student services 2100s, which is part of its transportation. You dropped that by 91%, 91% cuts, right? Instructional staff, you cut it by 18%, right? Pupil health. This board, those two people on this finance committee are going to stand up in a meeting and say, we recommend public health being cut by 43%. It doesn't make sense. Yet you're still going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on what we're going to call it facility services, right? Yet you have a brand new high school, brand new middle school, completely redone, brand new elementary center. it doesn't make sense that the moral direction of this board is to raise taxes, increase consumptions on certain areas, and greatly reduce them when it involves the protection and support of students or saving the community. Now, I proposed a tax decrease budget that was balanced, and it's not on the agenda tonight, and I'm not sure why, right? But I at least looked at the fact that each time that this district tried to raise taxes, that the subsequent year had a reduction in revenue, because it appears that the people are fed up with the mismanagement of this district and they vote with their feet. And I want to know if whether or not these two individuals reviewed that data, or are they going into this thing blind? And then the last thing I have, and I'd love an answer, is when I look at the personnel costs of an individual, as Joy had mentioned, I'll just read one off. An individual making $58,552 in salary, total personnel cost to the district is over $103,000, of which $20,000 is directly related to employee benefits and $20,000 is related to the PEASers. That means you got $40,000+ in benefits for a $58,000 employee. And it just gets worse as you get higher. So where is it that we check these employee benefits to make them more commensurate to the marketplace, so that this taxation that's going to yield a net reduction, according to the history, doesn't take place? Nathan, you're a businessman, expect to be Christian businessman, maybe moral. Give me your opinion on what you did with the solicitor, and will you do it before the meeting? Why did you pick these cuts? Did you review the employee benefits since you're on the negotiation committee? And did you check revenue versus taxation? Please respond. Rita, please respond. The board. I don't need anyone else to respond. Mr. Cleaver, you do not need to respond.
And don't even deserve a response.
Say that again, sir. You don't reserve a response? Say that again.
The so-called facts that you're stating here are
Yes,
your
sir.
opinion, nothing more.
No, sir. No, sir. They're completely listed in the AFRs submitted to the state, unless those documents are fictitious, as Mr. Stern had claimed. You're neglecting your duty to answer questions to the public. These are numbers. It was in the final budget. I already jumped it into the spreadsheet. And these are the facts, sir. I don't know if you looked at them, or you're just going to rubber stamp this whole thing with a blind trust. But I looked at them, and I'm putting them right up on the screen. It's recorded, and it'll be up at live, showing you neglecting your duty if you don't answer these questions and explain to us why you chose these cuts, these pay increases, these employee benefit issues, and to raise taxes to a district which has proven 2 times now that the reduction of local revenue as a result of increased taxes. Don't be a fool, sir. Don't be a fool.
We have Miss Bose.
No. I want him to answer, Mr. Cleaver. Do not allow this man. Do not silence him. He is the board member. Just because you have the rights to do so.
Miss Bose? Miss Bose?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes. All right. The unmute came up, but then it disappeared. All right. I have a question. As of the June 22nd board meeting, in your expenditure by object report, it shows that we have over $7 million left in the fund balance. Now, my question is, in May, it showed us paying about $1,600 in benefits, and there were no benefits paid in June for the bills that were to be paid. Are the benefits paid up at this point for this school year?
They are paid up, Barb. There might have been some timing differences based upon quarantine. You know, we've been limiting people in the offices, so people were coming in at different times. I would have to look into that. I don't have that, in front of me right now. Ideally, when you have in detail questions, if you could send them, before, that would be helpful, or if you give us the opportunity to at least follow up afterwards. Sometimes it's just the timing of things. We also have, it's vacation season as well. So some of the payments might have gone earlier in the month or later in the month, and that's why you don't see them on the report.
Okay, but still, basically, the benefits are paid up. Is what it seems with what the vote on payment of bills was for. I realize that there will be invoices probably from the IU, maybe BHA, etc. And we will, of course, have salaries depending on what the teachers decided as far as whether or not they're going to be paid over 12 months or, get just while they're working. But what do you?
There will also be salaries, all of the teacher pays over the summer. So if a teacher chooses to take their pay over the summer for the service performed during the 1920 school year, when that payroll's run, it's accrued back to the 1920 school year. That has not yet been done.
Right. No, and I understand that. But it does not seem at this point that it would come to over $7 million. And I'm wondering, do you have an idea of how much will be left over that would be a fund balance other than what was projected to be left over for this year?
We had a ending fund balance at the end of the 2018-19 year of just over $874,000.
Right.
I anticipate that most of that will be used up, if not more. We had budgeted over $2 million in use of fund balance. I can't at this point, Barb, answer you and say, I think it's going to be this, because the quarantine has impacted so many things that the timeliness of things has been delayed from getting vendor invoices in, from getting other school district invoices in. We did include in the revenue that was recorded throughout 1920 a number of billings in tuition revenue to other school districts. Tuition revenue that should have been billed out in 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18 in various years. I caught all of that up this year. We billed it all out to the school districts that should have received the bills in the past. We have only had one district actually pay that bill. Some of the districts that owe the district money are even more financially challenged than the district. So at year end, as part of the audit, they will evaluate whether or not they deem those amounts collectible. We are working with the school districts that we issued these bills to, trying to develop payment plans. But that could be something, that revenue that's currently shown because we did bill it out, that we may need to write off because it could be deemed uncollectible. So there's all of those kind of things that could impact that bottom line. We will have a closer, a year-to-date update at the next Finance Committee meeting.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I wasn't done. Hello?
We can hear you now, Barb.
Okay, sorry. The unmute came up again.
Oh, okay.
And I could hit it this time. Since we're talking about COVID-19, how do we safely add contact sports back into the middle school and not remove them from the high school as far as the budget when we cannot bus children safely?
Again, at this point, Barb, I think right now the PIAA has not officially released. The approval we have is just for the training part. I'm sure there'll be more guidance coming, from them as we move closer. But right now, as we said before, that phase plan right now is just for the training component of it. If the PIAA, feels that it is safe and we're able to move forward with that, we will honor that, living within their guidelines. But transportation will be a concern.
Okay, but according to the auditors, you are not in compliance with your policy when having a 5% fund balance. How do you add back unmandated options for students without complying with your policy first. And if we cannot provide transportation safely, and I know there's a money issue too, but if we can't supply transportation safely, how the heck can we add sports back in when we don't know if we can do it safely?
Well, Barb, as JJ said, the current plan is just allowing training. So athletic, the coaches to train with the students. It does not approve re-engaging in actual games and such. So it's just training. In the event that those guidelines are expanded, that's something we would have to bring back to the board and then have the discussion about all of those items that you're talking about. Is it viable to even consider doing transportation? Any of those things. So that's something that, as we progress through the pandemic and as the Department of Ed releases new guidelines and PAAA releases new guidelines that are in accordance with PDE and CDC, that will be more plans that will be brought to the public and to the board for discussion.
Well, let me ask this more specifically. Has the total amount of the funding for middle school sports been added back into the budget expenditures?
Yes.
They're in. I'm sorry, I think it's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. It should just be put into the budget surplus until it's allowed. And even then, it's not a mandated educational benefit. The same as busing. I'm done.
Ms. Mahalik? Ms. Mahalik?
I think I will wait to talk when the board meets at 7.
Okay. Ms. Salerno? Ms. Salerno?
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I just wanted to share a couple things, and I know Mrs. Danicola had said earlier about emailing things, and I did email this to a number of people, but I'm sharing not only on my behalf of myself, but on behalf of other parents as well. So I know you're looking to build a surplus, and with teacher negotiation of contracts coming up, is there a way that something that could be thought about? I know there's a lot of trainings that teachers receive that they get reimbursed for. And I also know from having many teacher friends that there's also trainings that are free online and through different sources that could get them those same trainings for the credits they need for the year. So I don't know how contracts work with the school district. I don't know if we could do a 1-year contract, renegotiate, a 2-year contract, renegotiate. I don't know how that is, but these are just suggestions. Also, clubs that we have at the school that we have more than one paid moderator. Can we cut that down to 1 moderator and have a parent or community member that has their clearances volunteer to help as needed? Tuition reimbursement is another thing. A lot of teachers I know are continuing their education and get paid tuition reimbursement. Again, if that could be put on hold for a year or so. And then another area, which I'd be curious to see a dollar amount on this, the ticket takers at the football stadium, the ticket takers at the door at sports events, the scorekeepers, the managers, they're all paid positions. And I'm not sure if they're part of the contract negotiations or what they are, but again, with that, we have many parents in the district that have their clearances and that be willing to volunteer for these things. Community members, senior citizens who are bored and have nothing to do, who wouldn't want pay. Give them a free ticket to go to whatever sporting event they want of their choice if they work. These are simple solutions, but it can be tons of money. And something I also want to share as far as this sports, and I know I agree, if we don't have busing for our students for school, we shouldn't have busing for our kids for sports. Our kids and their mental health is just as important as their physical health. And I know a lot of kids who are suffering. I know a lot of adults who are suffering right now too. So to get these kids some sort of normalcy, they need it, we need it. And as parents, we come together all the time. So I am sure if it's a matter of parents having to carpool students to events, they're going to do it. If it's a matter of parents having to chip in and rent a bus, they're going to do it. We're a small town, but we always, always, always find a way when it's putting the kids first, the community first, or the needs of somebody in our community first. So before people are quick to say no sports or whatever, we all need some normalcy. So thank you for letting me share.
Sue, I'll just speak in global to your comments. I appreciate all your comments. All of those items you discussed are generally part of, the active negotiations with your collective bargaining units, and we do actively negotiate that. I will also tell you that things that are not mandated within the contract, such as like those trips that you talked about, like for training, going outside for training instead of taking free online training, I will tell you that this budget has already cut those programs. So to the extent we could cut things like that within the contract that we could make cuts, we have done that and have looked through the free trainings and just decreasing every possible thing we could to get to this point. And we will continue to do that.
Well, thank you for your transparency in answering my question. I appreciate it.
At this time, everyone who has requested to speak has had an opportunity to speak.
There's no further questions from me. Unless Rita has anything else she needs, I think we should make a
I
motion
got a
to
question,
adjourn.
but I got my hand
I'll
raised.
second that, Nathan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.